are. We finished our tour at the Red Lion, formerly known as the Hammers. Hope you all enjoyed that one, and you've joined me for the final part of our tour, which takes in East Ham Central Park, a fun fair therein, a mortuary, which we're just walking past now, a war memorial, very grand one, and some VC winners, and then finally a lost London pub, which you can just see its replacement just there. More of that at the end of the video. Yeah, on a slightly morbid note, this is the local mortuary. Many a local resident unfortunately ends their days in there. And if you were watching our Boleyn to the Denmark part tour, you'll remember me mentioning the East Ham Co-op and the urns that were on it. Bear those in mind, my dears, bear those in mind. Some places in this area haven't changed, like Tilbury Road, a lot of the old road and the old Victorian houses. You can see with these types of things here, the ones that were knocked out in the Second World War, because our last location in this part of the tour, which is the Lost Pub, its original, which was a really grand, prestigious place, was blown out in the Second World War. Oh, the fun fair's gone. Oh, fun fair's gone now. It was a fun fair here the other day. You can see its sign, look. I thought, I did think I was in the wrong bit, to be honest with you, at the wrong gate. But no, I'm not, luckily. Yeah. As I say, flying bombs blew all this lot out, and our last location, the original one of it, it was rebuilt after the war, and built with something very 1950s or 60s, nothing like its former glory. Yeah, unfortunately, the war memorial is, sorry, the fun fair is gone, which was here. The fun fair was here. That's the war memorial there, just to give you a wee glimpse of that, but that's for the next part of our tour. Where we're heading off to is over here. Pause you a sec. Off we go. I have got some pictures of the fun fair from the other day, but anyone that knows the area or that's been to a fun fair knows what you're getting. Really, in a way, it's actually quite handy that it's gone, because it's made the park a lot quieter for me to do this filming. Many of you ladies and gents that lived in this area will really remember this park. It was many of your playgrounds when you were younger. I only really, because being Woolwich and then Plaistow, or Brentford, Woolwich, Brentwood, then Plaistow, I only ever came to this one for the fun fairs, like Wanstead Flats and places like that. But if you lived local in the area, this would have been your local park. My one was Balaam Street, or the one on Hermit Road. But what we're coming up to now is the Rose Garden area. And if you've been watching the tour in the correct order, you'll have seen the urns from the old Co-op building that was next to the Denmark on Hight Street North. And I'll say no more, but bear those in mind. Once again, I apologise about the clicky noise of my trainer. I don't know what's causing it, but it doesn't really bother me. God's outstanding features. This is an education learning centre, which unfortunately is right next to the mortuary. Let's hope the windows are closed on a warm day, because that's an education that the young ones wouldn't want, really, isn't it? I'll walk us round here. Shoelaces undone again. And then when we get back to here, I'll pause us, carry us back on from where we were with the War Memorial. Signs and markers, plaques around the park, help spot historical features, explore wildlife and pace your training. The sundial was promised to the park during the opening ceremony in 1898, and throughout the years it has been used by people in the park to tell the time. The sundial uses shadow to measure where the sun is in the sky, and marks on the dial. Well, we all know how sundial works. We'll be seeing that in a minute, but unfortunately someone snapped the arm off of it. Co-op urns. The 4 urns in the garden have been in Central Park since 1989, which is when the old cart building went. Before this, they decorated the clock tower of East Ham Cooperative Store. Boundary stone. Originally the stone that would mark the edge of East Ham Hall estate had indicated where one manor ended and the next began. And the fitness trail. Yeah, we're going to be covering this bit. And as I say, I'll pause this and we'll get back to where we were. There are plaques and stuff around on the floor as well that tell you different things. Savour the silence, a place of refuge since 1902. This is the impressive garden, and you'll be seeing the co-op urns in a minute. But this is the sundial, as I say, off which someone snapped the arm. So, it did originally, as you can see by the bits, have an arm to tell the time, but we live in a shitty area, I'm afraid. So. Now I'm going to walk you around the outside bit of this. Then we'll see the urns. I'll get you back to the gate where we were, pause you, then get you to the War Memorial. We'll cover that and the VC winners. Then we'll pick back up and finish off with the final part of our tour, which is going to be a lost pub. 1891. 100 people stood here to watch a windmill burned down. Simpler times. Huh? Yeah. So on the old East Ham estate there would have been a windmill, and in 1891 people stood there to watch it burn down. But yeah, this takes you around this way. Go down the middle bit, which is what we're going to do. Some flats, Masonette flats are not the prettiest things in the world, are they? What can you say about them other than yark? But yeah, I hope you're all enjoying this this tour and this bit of local history. I focus a lot on the city of London, but I am getting more into the local stuff, like local to me, I mean. What's now called Newham, which once would have been called West Ham and Essex. And some parts of it, I mean, some parts of London that I cover were once Middlesex. Middlesex was a really massive area. And remember the 4 co-op urns? Here are 2 of them. So we'll take a picture. Very nice. There are some plaques here which have been spray painted. I hate when people do that. Yeah, these are the co-op urns. You see this one here. It's been chalked on, but that's better than spray paint, I suppose, isn't it? There we go. Here's the other one. We'll see the other two in a minute. We've got a water feature, a fountain that doesn't work. Yeah. Pigeons seem to enjoy it. They'll enjoy having a drink, won't they? At least someone's happy. And here are the two other co-op urns. Yeah. They're big, weren't they, these? I don't know if you can see the... oh yeah, you can, it's pretty well, look. These urns, circa 1929, originate from the London Co-op building in East Ham, which was demolished in 1989. Let's do that with you a sec. Right. We're going to go off and round this way. Get back to the gate where we were. And then off to our next part of the tour, which is a War Memorial, as I say. We will be naughty and cut across the grass, everyone does nowadays. When I was a kid with parks, they had very strict gardeners, and woe betide any person that did this. You would be told off. But yeah, it's a lovely place, as you can see. Well planted and laid out. And those urns are a decent bit of history, aren't they? Thistles there, look. Scottish thistles. I'll pause you a sec. Here we go. And off we go. This way a sec, so I don't film people without their consent, hopefully. You've got another one of these plaque things over here. Blue Atlas, Cedar, Citrus, Citrus, Glus. I think it's cedarwood trees that... No, there's a tree that grows in churchyards that's one of the most poisonous things on the planet. Can't think whether it was cedar, it could be. What's this one? A Tibetan cherry, Prunus cerilla. I assume it's that one, unless the tree died. Right, it took us to back where we come from, so I shall pause you and you will join me back where we were, right over there. So join me there. Start us back off with this because it's important and didn't catch it on my way down. Gone are the creators, but not the memories. The London Blitz, 1939 to 1945. That was just where we've come from over there. Mortuary. And now, because we've only got a little way to the gate, so I thought I'd start us back off again with the plaque for the war, because it's important. It's a big piece of the local history. It wrought a lot of carnage, unfortunately, the war. There's a church over there, a modernish one, modern at its time, another one for me to cover at some point. You think you've covered all the churches, and then, oh yeah. This park itself was opened in 1898. I think the late Victorian era, a lot of people lived in slum dwellings, and a lot of people that had land and money granted it and whatnot, so the people would have parks and at least somewhere decent to go. People used to like to what they call promenade on a Sunday, or on their days off have a promenade through the park. There's a bandstand and everything and whatnot. Don't know if it's still got that. I know it had a bandstand. Yeah, what we're coming up to now is the War Memorial. Placed here in 1921. It is an impressive one. And as I say, this borough, it wasn't one of the poorer ones, put it that way. You can see that by the old buildings like the Town Hall, the War Memorials, and you can tell an area's financial situation sometimes by looking at its civic buildings. Yeah, this is what we want to cover, the War Memorial. This is World War I. After the cenotaph and everything went up, there was a big craze of course, not a craze, but if people wanted to commemorate all the people that they'd lost, so there was a big phase of putting up war memorials, and this is what we're going to look at now. This monument, erected to the glory of God and the memory of East Ham's bravest sons who fell in the Great War of 1914-1918. And I'll take you around it, and we will focus on one of the panels for the names of the regular fighting men. This tablet is dedicated by the officers, commissioned officers and men of the 141st East Ham Heavy Battery, Royal Garrison Artillery, to the memory of their comrades who made the supreme sacrifice during the Great War. And if you go around this side, you'll see that two of the panels are missing actually, and I hope that they've been taken off for restoration purposes rather than for some other reason. This is the first one that's missing. Yeah, well, I'll zoom in on some of these names of these brave men. So I'm going to focus on this panel. Pause to read any of the names you want to particularly focus on. that's one of the panels. It's got Victory above, look. And we'll go round it because for our next phase of off into the past history, you can see the next panel that's missing here, look, bronze panel, and I hope they've been taken off for restoration rather than someone's stolen them for the bronze, because that's just ultimate scumminess if they've done that. And what I want to begin you with this one is these, look. It's locked, but it doesn't matter, we can still see that. These stones were laid to honour the brave men of East Ham and West Ham who were awarded the Victoria Cross during World War I. Now we're going to have a look at the names of the men, and on there the dates are not the dates that they died, they're the dates that they were awarded their Victoria Cross, because some of these men went on to live after the war. Lance Corporal Harold Mugford, Machine Gun Corps, 11th of April 1917, so that's when he was awarded his VC. Our next one, 2nd Lieutenant Edgar Miles, Welsh Regiment, 9th of April 1916. He's one of the men that went on to live long after the First World War. You'll see more images, you'll see some images of these men after this bit. Midshipman George Drury, Royal Naval Reserve, 25th of April 1915. This is of course the one that we started off with that tells you about the VC winners. One of the most famous from our area, boy, because of his age, he was a very young boy, he lied about his age. Boy first class, John Cornwall, Royal Navy, 31st of May 1916. I'll be covering his grave soonish, or when I get round to it, in Seabrook Road Cemetery in Manor Park. 2nd Lieutenant Bernard Cassidy, Lancashire Fusiliers, 28th of March 1918. But yeah, with John Cornwall, at first, I mean, he came from a poor family and he came home wounded and died at home, and his mother had him buried in a common grave, a public grave, because they didn't have the money for a private. And the news got out and it was starting to cause outrage and a bit of a scandal, so very, very quickly he was exhumed from his original grave and given a full military funeral with honours, awarded his VC in that because of his act of bravery. And yeah, so they tried to put right a wrong. But now we're going to be off into the past and to see some images of these men, these VC winners. So join me for that part of the video now. And here we are, our 5 local heroes, our Victoria Cross recipients. An image and a little bit of information on each man, with a little bit of a tribute piece at the end. This is Lance Corporal Harold Mugford, VC. If you wish to find out more about each man, just Google their names and you'll find an awful lot about them online. As you can see here, Harold didn't die until 1958, and as I said in my part of filming the video at the memorial, the dates on each memorial stone are not the dates of death, they are the dates that each man received his Victoria Cross. Edgar Miles, VC, Machine Gun Corps. I really enjoyed reading about Edgar Miles because I didn't really know, I'd heard the name, I'd seen him mentioned on a programme before, but only that he was a VC winner, or VC recipient, sorry. And yeah, a real interesting man because he lived a long time after the war. As you can see here, he died in January 1977, and a very interesting man to read about. There's an awful lot about him. He's born in 1894 in East Ham, so he was a local man. And his awards were the Victoria Cross, the Distinguished Service Order, and was mentioned in dispatches, so a prestigious military career in that respect, shall we say. George Drury, VC, Midshipman, Royal Naval Reserve. As I say, if you want to find out more about each man, Google their names and you will find an awful lot about them online. Or if you want to wait, I will be doing more in-depth pieces on each man, like specific pieces covering more of their story and that. Usually I do a lot of the First World War Memorial stuff in November for the Remembrance Day, but I was thinking about maybe doing it at the start of the First World War, the date the First World War started, to do something a bit different. So yeah, either have a read up on these brave heroes yourself, these gentlemen, or wait till I do it. If August, it will be fairly soon. And as you can see, George Drury, he was born in Forest Gate in 1894, and he died in 1918 at Scapa Flow. And yeah, he was awarded the Victoria Cross, the most prestigious award for gallantry in the face of enemy action that can be awarded to British and Commonwealth forces. He's buried in the City of London Cemetery in Manor Park, so we will be visiting his grave or memorial at some point. The City of London Cemetery is one that I will be covering soon. John Cornwall, or Jack Cornwall, or Boy Cornwall as he was known, VC. Boy First Class, and he was only 16 years old when he died. He's one of the most well-known or famous or notorious ones because of his young age and the act of bravery at such a young age. As you can see on his cap band here, HMS Vivid, that would have been the ship he was serving on at the time when this picture was taken. Here's some information on him here, and another image. John Cornwall, VC, John Travers Cornwall, VC. Born in 1900 and he died in 1916, and he was very young when he joined up. He was 14 or 15, I think it was 15. Commonly known as Jack Cornwall or as Boy Cornwall, is remembered for his gallantry at the Battle of Jutland in World War I. Having died at the age of only 16, he was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest award for gallantry in the face of enemy action that can be awarded to British and Commonwealth forces. Cornwall is the third youngest recipient of the VC, after Andrew Fitzgibbon and Thomas Flynn. Two other names that you can also research if you wish to. Bernard Cassidy, VC, Bernard Matthew Cassidy, Lancashire Fusiliers, second lieutenant. And this is a lovely image here, it's a nice clear photo. And here's some information on Bernard Cassidy. March 1918 was at Arras in France. He's remembered at the Arras Memorial, and Cassidy is a street named after him in Canning Town in London called Bernard Cassidy Street. His VC is on display in the Lord Ashcroft Gallery in the Imperial War Museum, and I've been to the Imperial War Museum a few times. Most recently was when I was with my ex, which would have been before 2016, and we saw his medal there. It's really humbling to hear their stories and read their stories, and to see Bernard's medal. So when I do go to the Imperial War Museum to cover it for the page, of course, you will be seeing his medals among other people's. And there we are. I hope you all found that interesting and informative. Brave men, eh? You don't get the VC for nothing. That concludes, and on with the next part of our tour. If you've been watching them in order, as I said on the Denmark pub to the Red Lion pub bit, where we covered East Ham Town Hall and the old tram depot. When the tram depot went, what replaced it was this. Make sure I've got my wallet, which I have. The location on buses like the 115 and that, and other buses that come here, is known as East Ham Central Park. But for as long as I've been alive, the buses have stopped here, and that's where you pick your bus up from. Well, not there, but from the stop round the corner. But yeah, on to the next part of our tour, which is our lost pub, and this is the last part of our tour. As I said, it was once a prestigious and renowned location, blown to shittery in the Second World War, replaced with some 1950s or 60s structure that wasn't the prettiest thing in the world, but there we are. But yeah, the White Horse pub, one of London's lost old travelling inns, and this is what replaced it now. So yeah, you got this in its place. Off we go back into the past. I'll start us off here, and we'll cover you with the history of the White Horse. So you've got it now, and you're going to see it then. And I hope you all enjoyed the tour, if I didn't say so at the end. Thanks for watching, and that concludes this little bunch of wanderings, shall we say. Thanks all. Join me for the White Horse pub. The White Horse pub, as we all knew and loved it. I drank in this one a couple of times myself, and this is how many of us will remember the White Horse. But it's got an interesting history, this one. So I wanted to start off with the image that most of us will most remember, and then work our way back in the past from there. The White Horse Hotel, as it originally was built in 1769 for John Charrington, a brewer and businessman who owned several pubs in London. The hotel was named after the white horse that Charrington used to ride around his properties. The hotel was designed by Robert Adam, a famous Scottish architect who also worked on Buckingham Palace and Kedleston Hall. Here we see it by the 1870s. The hotel had 3 stories and a basement with a large courtyard in front of it. The hotel had 40 rooms, each with its own fireplace and window. The hotel also had a dining room, a ballroom, a billiard room and a bar. The hotel was decorated with paintings, sculptures, chandeliers and mirrors. It underwent large renovations in the latter 19th century with a big extension, rebuild and remodelling, which gives us here what we see. 1902. The hotel attracted many guests from different walks of life, such as merchants, travellers, artists, politicians and even royalty. Some of the notable guests who stayed at the hotel were King George III in 1789, Lord Nelson in 1801, Charles Dickens in 1836, Queen Victoria in 1843, Winston Churchill in 1908 and Charlie Chaplin in 1914, which takes us to this 1920s image, which was near enough of the era that Chaplin would have stayed and remembered this pub. However, the hotel's fate changed forever during World War II, when it became a victim of Nazi Germany's aerial attacks. It was a victim twice in 4 days of Hitler's flying bombs. The first bomb fell on June the 23rd, 1944, in nearby Flanders Road. 6 people were killed, 6 seriously injured, and many more injured. 2,135 homes were damaged, over 100 of them being either demolished or completely wrecked. The first bomb also did the great damage to Charrington's White Horse. Men during temporary repairs to the hotel 3 days later, when at 4 o'clock in the afternoon the second flying bomb exploded at the back. 9 were killed in the incident and 15 seriously injured. 1,765 homes were either ruined or damaged. The World War II photo that we see here, showing the bomb damage to the White Horse, is from a collection of newspaper magazine articles published in England during World War II, and which sadly shows the destruction of the old White Horse pub. The pub was rebuilt in the post-war era, 1950s/60s, and simply called the White Horse, which was the pub that many of us knew and remembered. The pub permanently closed its doors in 2015. But we're getting to the era of how many of us remember the White Horse. It's another big one that the football fans all went to on the West Ham games. As I say, it permanently closed its doors in 2015 and was demolished in 2017 and replaced with the much of a muchness apartment flats that we see today, and what we left off in my little bit of filming. And here is a glimpse of it just once again for anyone that may have forgotten. So yeah, that's the East Ham Central Park and the history of the White Horse pub all in one. Hope you all found this interesting. I will do a separate piece on the pub, of course, in my Lost Pubs of London, but I wanted to include the park, the fun fair, and thought I'd have a little delve into a little bit of history while we was there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed. Take